Okay, so maybe on more of a context level, why do you think now is one of, I mean, I think there's a lot of energy and positive attitude coming in a wave at the moment, and why do you think now is, why do you have such a chance to succeed, basically?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we look at Copenhagen in 2009, right, I mean, it was the early stages of the economic crisis, the austerity crisis. And these movements, were, they hadn't really come together in the way that and the need for a holistic response to the inequality crisis, to the austerity crisis, to the ecological crisis. I think that's so much clearer to a great many people now than it was in 2009. And the urgency of it. I also think that it's an exciting moment because of what just happened in Greece, because of Podemos rising in Spain, that the chance of social movements coming together and articulating this agenda, because it's clear that even if a political party can take power like Syriza, they don't actually have the vision for this kind of transformation. If it's going to happen, it is going to come from below. I think what's exciting about this moment is that we do have some examples, like what has happened in Germany with the energy transition, that shows us a glimpse of how quickly an energy system can change, what policies do encourage decentralization, and I think that Germany is an interesting example because it was catalyzed by a shock. It was catalyzed by the Fukushima disaster. It was an intersection between the fact that Germany had such a strong anti-nuclear movement before, that a few good policies were in place, and then that disaster sort of supercharged it, right? So we find ourselves in this moment where we are in the midst of a shock. We're in the midst of a price shock. We're also dealing with the ongoing slide, and here I'm using some language of a group in the US called Movement Generation. They're a climate justice group where they talk about shocks, slides, and shifts. And they say our job is to harness the shocks and the slides to get the shift that we want, right? Climate change is a slide, it's this slow grind, but occasionally there are these shocks, right? And we are facing one now in the form of this price shock. Then we have the grinding slide of the economic crisis, but the need for change, people's understanding that this system is not working, that the only problem with the system is not just that it's causing sea levels to rise, it's that it is failing the vast majority of people on the planet. I think that hunger and that desire for deep transformation is something I haven't seen all these forces come together in my lifetime. I think that the biggest problem we're up against is the same one, is that sense of hopelessness, this sense that we can't change, that the forces we're up against are too big, too powerful. That's what I come up against most in my work and in the people I talk to. And that's why I say it's, what's happening in Europe, what just happened in Greece, what's, happening in Spain, to the extent to which people catch a glimpse of, okay, things can change, that works for us. Not that it's just about electing political parties, but, if there can be a bottom-up process of articulating an agenda that then translates into policy. And I mentioned Germany. That's an example that shows that our ideas work. Decentralized, 900 energy cooperatives in Germany. That works, right? So we're not just talking about theory here. We're not just talking about a small little pocket of an example. We're talking about a transition that now means that 20% of Germany's electricity is coming from renewables. We also know that it's not nearly enough. We also know that it's fairly meaningless from a climate perspective if it isn't accompanied by resisting the coal lobby and fighting extraction. But I mean, that's the other point about the price shock we're in, is that in terms of winning big victories like countrywide bans on fracking, for instance, or closing off the Arctic to drilling, or moratorium on tar sands, it's much easier to win those types of big victories when prices are down and the fossil fuel companies aren't clamoring to get in because they're basically reeling from their own shock. But this is a window. This is like, this could be 6 months. This, you know, we know the price will go up. But I think it just so happens that it's hitting us at an organizing moment, and that's a good convergence of events. You know, it's not that it makes it easy, but I think it makes it more possible. So I don't want to be Pollyannish about this or say I think, you know, this is just going to happen you know, on its own. But you know, when I was in Brussels not too long ago, you know, I made the point that you know, it shows how far we have to go when you can have a countrywide rail strike and the words climate change don't come up, right? It's just talked about in the context of austerity. So these sort of basic connections are waiting to be made, but somehow, you know, it's not happening fast enough.